My sister called my business fake, then Amazon announced they were buying it for $2 billion. The notification sound from Marcus Chen's phone cut through the morning silence like a blade. He stared at the screen, his coffee mug trembling in his hand as the Bloomberg headline burned into his retinas. Amazon acquires EcoFlow Technologies for $2.1 billion in landmark green tech deal. The mug slipped from his fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor of his modest apartment, sending ceramic shards and dark liquids spreading across the room like fragments of his disbelief. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. His phone buzzed again. A text from his sister, Victoria. Saw the news. I guess your fake little hobby business turned out to be worth something after all. We need to talk. Marcus sank into his desk chair, surrounded by the modest setup that had been his world for the past 6 years. 2 monitors, a standing desk he'd built himself from IKEA parts, and walls covered with prototypes and sketches that now represented the foundation of a billion-dollar acquisition. The irony wasn't lost on him that the same sister who had publicly humiliated him at their family's annual New Year's party just 8 months ago was now reaching out with congratulations wrapped in thinly veiled regret. Marcus Chen had always been the dreamer in the Chen family, much to the chagrin of his pragmatic parents and his overachieving sister, Victoria. While Victoria climbed the corporate ladder at Goldman Sachs, earning her MBA from Wharton and collecting accolades like trophies, Marcus spent his evenings in his garage, tinkering with renewable energy solutions that most people couldn't understand, let alone appreciate. The Chen family had immigrated to Portland, Oregon, when Marcus was 12 and Victoria was 15. Their parents, Dr. Helen Chen and Professor James Chen, had built respectable careers in academia, with Helen becoming a renowned cardiologist and James establishing himself as a leading researcher in material science at Portland State University. Success in the Chen household was measured in degrees, publications, and prestigious job titles. There was little room for uncertainty, and even less for what Helen often called Marcus's expensive hobbies. Victoria had embodied everything their parents hoped for in a child. She graduated summa cum laude from Stanford, landed a coveted position at Goldman Sachs straight out of college, and within 5 years had earned her way into the investment banking elite. She lived in a penthouse apartment in Manhattan, wore designer suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and spoke fluent Mandarin, which she used to impress clients during high-stakes international deals. Marcus, by contrast, had taken what his family considered the scenic route through life. He graduated with a degree in environmental engineering from Oregon State University, a respectable school, but hardly Stanford. Instead of pursuing graduate studies or corporate opportunities, he'd chosen to work for a small renewable energy startup that folded within 2 years due to poor management and limited funding. When that company failed, Marcus made a decision that his family viewed as both predictable and disappointing. He'd decided to strike out on his own. The idea for EcoFlow Technologies had come to Marcus during a camping trip in the Cascade Mountains. He'd been frustrated by the limitations of portable solar panels, which were either too bulky for backpacking or too inefficient to power anything beyond a phone charger. As he sat by his campfire, watching the gentle flow of a nearby stream, the concept struck him with crystalline clarity. What if he could create a portable energy system that combined multiple renewable sources, solar, wind, and microhydroelectric, into a single compact unit? Most people would have filed the idea away as a fun thought experiment. Marcus spent the next 3 months obsessively researching databases, energy conversion efficiency ratios, and manufacturing costs. He filled notebook after notebook with calculations, sketches, and feasibility studies. When he finally presented his initial prototype to his family during a Sunday dinner, the reception was less than enthusiastic. "It's an interesting project," his father had said diplomatically, examining the crude device that looked more like a science fair project than a commercial product. "But Marcus, you need to think practically. How are you going to compete with companies that have millions in research and development budgets?" Victoria had been less diplomatic. Marcus, this is exactly the kind of thing that sounds great in theory, but has no real market application. Who's your target customer? Hardcore survivalists? Weekend campers who want to charge their phones? The market's too niche. The technology's too complex. And frankly, you don't have the business experience to make this work. Their mother had nodded in agreement. Marcus, dear, maybe it's time to consider a more stable career path. Dr. Morrison at the hospital mentioned they're always looking for good engineers in their medical device division. It would be steady work, good benefits, and you could still tinker with your inventions as a hobby. But Marcus had seen something in that first prototype that his family missed. The device wasn't just about combining renewable energy sources. It was about democratizing access to clean, reliable power in situations where traditional electricity wasn't available. He envisioned disaster relief operations, remote research stations, off-grid communities, and yes, even camping enthusiasts who wanted to maintain their connection to the digital world without sacrificing their environmental values. Against his family's advice and without their financial support, Marcus took out a second mortgage on the small house he'd managed to buy with his savings from his previous job. He converted his two-car garage into a workshop and laboratory, investing every available dollar into equipment, materials, and the kind of specialized tools that would allow him to refine his prototypes. His neighbors initially complained about the noise from his 3D printers and metal fabrication equipment, but Marcus's genuine enthusiasm and willingness to explain his work eventually won most of them over. The first 2 years of EcoFlow Technologies were a masterclass in persistence and creative problem-solving. Marcus worked 18-hour days, designing, building, testing, and redesigning his energy systems. He taught himself advanced electronics, studied manufacturing processes through online courses, and learned business fundamentals through a combination of library books and YouTube videos. Every prototype that failed taught him something new, and every small improvement brought him closer to a product that could actually compete in the marketplace. The breakthrough came during his third year of development. Marcus had been struggling with the efficiency of his microhydroelectric component when he discovered a new type of magnetic bearing system that dramatically reduced friction and energy loss. The innovation wasn't just incremental, it represented a fundamental improvement that made his entire system significantly more effective than anything else on the market. He applied for his first patent on a Tuesday morning in March, representing himself because he couldn't afford a patent attorney. 3 months later, when the provisional patent was approved, Marcus felt a surge of validation that sustained him through the next phase of his journey, finding customers. His first sale came through an unexpected channel. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a climate researcher studying glacier melt in Alaska, had heard about Marcus's work through a friend at Oregon State. She needed a portable power solution that could operate reliably in sub-zero temperatures while powering sensitive scientific equipment for weeks at a time. Traditional generators were too noisy and produced too much pollution for her research site, and solar panels alone weren't.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Sufficient during the long Arctic winter. Marcus worked closely with Dr. Mitchell to customize his system for her specific needs, adding enhanced cold weather capabilities and specialized connectors for her scientific instruments. The collaboration resulted in a power system that not only met her requirements but exceeded them, providing 40% more reliable power than she had anticipated. More importantly, Dr. Mitchell was so impressed with Marcus's work that she recommended his systems to colleagues in her field. Within 6 months, Marcus had sold 12 customized units to research teams across North America. Each sale taught him more about his customers' needs and helped him refine his product line. He discovered that researchers weren't just buying power systems, they were buying peace of mind, reliability, and the freedom to focus on their work instead of worrying about equipment failures. The success with research customers opened Marcus's eyes to other potential markets. Emergency response teams needed portable power for disaster relief operations. Military units required reliable energy sources for remote deployments. Telecommunications companies needed backup power for cell towers in areas prone to outages. Each market segment had specific requirements, but they all shared a common need for Marcus's core innovation: reliable, clean, portable power that could operate independently of traditional infrastructure. By his fourth year in business, Marcus had developed a product line of 6 different power systems, ranging from compact units suitable for individual use to larger installations capable of powering entire temporary facilities. He had moved his operations from his garage to a small industrial space in southeast Portland, hired 3 employees, and established relationships with component suppliers across the Pacific Northwest. His family's attitude toward his business had evolved from skeptical to cautiously supportive. His father occasionally stopped by the workshop to see the latest developments, and his mother had even started mentioning Marcus's work to her colleagues at the hospital. Victoria, however, remained unconvinced that EcoFlow Technologies represented a viable long-term career. During family gatherings, she would listen politely to Marcus's updates about new customers and product developments, but her questions always focused on financial projections, market size analysis, and exit strategies. "It's great that you're passionate about this," she would say, "but passion doesn't pay the bills long-term. What's your plan for scaling? How are you going to compete when the big companies decide to enter this market?" Marcus understood Victoria's perspective. From her vantage point in the world of investment banking, success was measured in terms of rapid growth, market domination, and eventual acquisition or IPO. EcoFlow Technologies was still a small company with modest revenues and an uncertain future. But Marcus saw potential that went beyond traditional business metrics. He was building something that solved real problems for real people. And every satisfied customer validated his belief that he was on the right path. The tension between Marcus's vision and his family's expectations came to a head during their annual New Year's Eve celebration. The Chen family had a tradition of hosting an elaborate party at their parents' home, inviting colleagues, neighbors, and family friends for an evening of food, conversation, and reflection on the year past. It was always a formal affair, with Helen insisting that everyone dress appropriately and contribute meaningfully to the sophisticated conversations that were expected at such gatherings. Marcus had been looking forward to the 2023 celebration because he finally had genuinely exciting news to share. EcoFlow Technologies had just closed its best year ever, with revenues approaching $800,000 and a backlog of orders that would carry well into the following year. More importantly, he had received inquiries from several major corporations about potential partnerships and licensing deals. For the first time, he felt like he had a real chance to convince Victoria that the small business he had poured his heart and soul into had the potential to become something truly significant.
Time since starting his business, Marcus felt confident that he was on the verge of something significant. The party was held in the Chen family's spacious living room, which Helen had decorated with elegant black and gold accents. About 30 guests mingled throughout the space, including several of Victoria's colleagues who were visiting Portland for the holidays. Marcus arrived wearing his best suit, carrying a small, wrapped package that contained a detailed business plan he had prepared specifically for the occasion. The evening started well. Marcus found himself in several engaging conversations about renewable energy, climate change, and the growing market for sustainable technology solutions. Dr. Patterson, from his father's university, was particularly interested in Marcus's work and asked detailed questions about the technical specifications of his power systems. Marcus felt comfortable and confident, enjoying the opportunity to discuss his expertise with an appreciative audience. The moment that would define the next chapter of Marcus's life came during Victoria's impromptu speech before midnight. She had been drinking champagne throughout the evening and seemed energized by the attention from her Goldman Sachs colleagues. As the clock approached 11:30, she clinked her glass with a dessert spoon, calling for everyone's attention. "I'd like to take a moment to talk about dreams and reality," Victoria began, her voice carrying easily through the now quiet room. We're all here because we believe in working hard and achieving success through dedication and smart choices. But sometimes I think it's important to acknowledge when our dreams might be getting in the way of our practical responsibilities. Marcus felt a cold knot forming in his stomach as Victoria's gaze settled on him. My brother Marcus has spent the last few years chasing what I can only describe as a fake business, she continued, her tone maintaining the appearance of sisterly concern while delivering words that cut like surgical instruments. He's convinced himself that his little hobby workshop is going to revolutionize the energy industry, but the reality is that he's wasting his talents and his savings on a fantasy that has no realistic path to meaningful success. The room fell silent except for the soft background music that Helen had selected for the evening. Marcus felt the weight of 30 pairs of eyes focusing on him, some sympathetic, others curious, all uncomfortable with the sudden shift in the party's atmosphere. Victoria wasn't finished. Marcus is brilliant, and he could have a fantastic career with any number of established companies. But instead, he's chosen to play entrepreneur with what amounts to expensive science experiments that appeal to a tiny niche market. It's time for him to face reality and make some adult decisions about his future. Marcus stood frozen as Victoria's words echoed through the room. He could see his parents exchanging uncomfortable glances, their faces reflecting a mixture of embarrassment and concern. Dr. Patterson looked down at his hands, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. The Goldman Sachs colleagues nodded approvingly, apparently viewing Victoria's intervention as a reasonable expression of family responsibility. "I love my brother," Victoria concluded, "and that's why I'm saying this. Sometimes we need to hear hard truths from the people who care about us most. Marcus's fake business has gone on long enough. It's time for him to join the real world." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for hours, though it probably lasted only seconds. Marcus felt his face burning with humiliation and anger, emotions that threatened to overwhelm his ability to respond rationally. He looked around the room at the faces of people he had known for years, people who had just witnessed his sister's public character assassination disguised as tough love. Instead of defending himself or lashing out, Marcus made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He walked calmly to where Victoria stood, reached into his jacket pocket, and pulled out the wrapped
Package he had brought for the occasion. "Victoria," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the turmoil he felt inside, "I brought something for you tonight. A business plan that shows exactly how fake my company really is. But given your assessment of the situation, I think I'll hold on to it for now." He turned to address the room. "Thank you all for a lovely evening. I hope you have a wonderful new year." Marcus walked to the front door, collected his coat, and stepped out into the cold Portland night. As he drove home, he made a mental commitment that would change everything. Victoria thought his business was fake, a hobby masquerading as a real company. He was going to prove her wrong in a way that would be impossible to ignore or dismiss. The next morning, Marcus sat in his workshop surrounded by prototypes, financial records, and strategic plans that he had been developing over the past several months. Victoria's words still stung, but they had also clarified something important for him. He had been approaching his business with the caution of someone who expected to fail, hedging his bets and avoiding the kind of bold moves that could lead to either spectacular success or devastating failure. That was about to change. Marcus opened his laptop and began composing emails that would set in motion a series of events that none of his family could have anticipated. He was done being the dreamer whose ideas were dismissed as impractical fantasies. It was time to show the world, and especially Victoria, what a fake business could really accomplish when it stopped pretending to be small. The weeks following the New Year's party transformed Marcus from a cautious entrepreneur into a strategic visionary with nothing left to lose. Victoria's public humiliation had stripped away his last vestiges of self-doubt and family-pleasing hesitation. If his business was fake, as she had so eloquently declared in front of 30 witnesses, then he would build something so undeniably real that even Wall Street's golden child would have to acknowledge its legitimacy. Marcus began each morning at 4:30, arriving at his workshop before dawn to maximize his productive hours. The industrial space in southeast Portland had become his sanctuary,
a place where Victoria's cutting words couldn't penetrate the focused intensity of innovation and determination. He had expanded beyond his original six-person team, bringing in specialists whose expertise complemented his own vision for what EcoFlow technologies could become. Dr. Raj Patel joined as head of research and development in February, bringing 15 years of experience from Tesla's energy division and a reputation for breakthrough innovations in battery technology. Sarah Kim, a former marketing director from Patagonia, took charge of brand development and customer acquisition strategies. Most importantly, Marcus convinced Elena Rodriguez, a seasoned operations manager who had helped scale 3 successful startups, to join as his chief operating officer. These weren't desperate hires or friends doing favors. Each person Marcus recruited was a proven professional who saw the same potential in EcoFlow technologies that he did. Dr. Patel had been earning a substantial salary at Tesla when Marcus approached him with a detailed presentation about the company's technological roadmap and market opportunities. Sarah Kim had taken a pay cut to join because she believed in the environmental mission and saw untapped potential in Marcus's customer-centric approach. Elena Rodriguez had multiple offers from established companies, but chose EcoFlow because she recognized the rare combination of innovative technology and executable business strategy. Realized with projected growth rates that could support a company many times EcoFlow's current size. Sarah Kim's market research revealed that consumers were increasingly willing to pay premium prices for products that aligned with their environmental values, provided they could be confident in the quality and reliability of those products. Emergency preparedness had evolved from a niche concern of survivalists to a mainstream priority for families across the country. Climate change was making power outages more frequent and severe, creating a growing market of consumers who needed backup power solutions, but were reluctant to invest in traditional generators that were noisy, polluting, and difficult to maintain. Dr. Patel's technical analysis showed that EcoFlow's core innovations were more defensible than Marcus had realized. The magnetic bearing system that had been his breakthrough discovery was actually part of a broader technological approach that could be protected through a portfolio of patents. More importantly, the manufacturing processes Marcus had developed to produce his systems efficiently at small scale could be adapted for much larger production volumes without losing the quality advantages that differentiated his products. Elena Rodriguez conducted a thorough operational assessment that revealed both opportunities and challenges. EcoFlow's current manufacturing capability could support perhaps double their current sales volume, but scaling beyond that would require significant investments in equipment, facility space, and supply chain partnerships. The company's financial position was stronger than Marcus had fully appreciated, with healthy margins on current products and sufficient cash flow to fund moderate expansion without external investment. By March, the team had developed a comprehensive strategic plan that would position EcoFlow Technologies for exponential growth over the next 3 years. The plan called for expanding their product line to serve broader market segments, establishing partnerships with major retailers and distributors, and developing next-generation technologies that would maintain their competitive advantages as larger companies inevitably entered their market space. Marcus found himself energized by the collaborative process of strategic planning in ways that his previous solo efforts had never achieved. Working with experienced professionals who brought complementary skills and perspectives helped him see possibilities that had been invisible when he was operating primarily on intuition and technical expertise. The business that Victoria had dismissed as fake was revealing itself to be a sophisticated operation with genuine potential for major success. The first major milestone in their expansion strategy came in April when REI agreed to carry 3 of EcoFlow's products in their outdoor equipment stores. Sarah Kim had spent weeks developing a presentation that positioned EcoFlow systems not just as camping gear, but as essential equipment for anyone who valued environmental responsibility and emergency preparedness. The REI partnership provided immediate access to customers across the Pacific Northwest and established EcoFlow as a legitimate player in the outdoor equipment market. The success with REI opened doors to other retail partnerships. Dick's Sporting Goods agreed to test EcoFlow products in 20 stores across California and Oregon. Home Depot expressed interest in carrying their larger systems in the emergency preparedness sections of their stores. Each new retail relationship validated Marcus's belief that there was substantial demand for his products beyond the niche research and professional markets where he had started. Dr. Patel's research and development efforts were producing innovations that kept EcoFlow ahead of emerging competition. His team developed a new generation of power management software that optimized energy usage across multiple devices and power sources, effectively extending the operational time of their systems by up to 30%. They created modular power packs that could be easily extended, ensuring longer operational times for customers with heavier power needs. These innovations were all designed to ensure that EcoFlow remained a step ahead of its competitors.
Components that allowed customers to customize their power systems for specific applications without requiring entirely new products. Most significantly, Dr. Patel's team solved a major technical challenge that had been limiting the scalability of Marcus's original designs. They developed a manufacturing process that could produce the magnetic bearing components at much larger volumes while maintaining the precision tolerances required for optimal performance. This breakthrough meant that EcoFlow could scale their production to meet major commercial orders without sacrificing the quality advantages that had made their products successful in smaller markets. Elena Rodriguez was simultaneously building the operational infrastructure that would support rapid growth. She established relationships with component suppliers that could handle larger order volumes, negotiated lease agreements for expanded manufacturing space, and developed quality control processes that would maintain EcoFlow's reputation for reliability as production volumes increased. Perhaps most importantly, Elena implemented financial systems that gave Marcus real-time visibility into every aspect of his business performance. For the first time since starting EcoFlow, Marcus could see exactly how much each product cost to manufacture, which customers were most profitable, and which operational improvements would have the greatest impact on overall business results. The combination of improved products, expanded distribution, and professional management began producing results that exceeded even Marcus's optimistic projections. Monthly revenues doubled between March and June, then doubled again by September. The company's customer base expanded from primarily research and professional users to include recreational customers, emergency preparedness enthusiasts, and early adopters of sustainable technology. Marcus found himself fielding inquiries from potential partners and investors who had heard about EcoFlow's rapid growth through industry networks. A venture capital firm in Seattle wanted to discuss a growth investment that would accelerate their retail expansion. A major electronics manufacturer in Japan was interested in licensing EcoFlow's technology for integration into their own product lines. A government contractor specializing in emergency response equipment wanted to explore partnership opportunities for serving federal and state agencies. Each conversation reinforced Marcus's growing confidence that Victoria's assessment of his business had been spectacularly wrong. EcoFlow Technologies wasn't a fake company or an expensive hobby. It was a rapidly growing business with innovative products, loyal customers, and enormous potential for expansion. The most significant opportunity emerged in August when Marcus received an unexpected phone call from David Chen, a senior business development executive at Amazon. Despite sharing the same surname, David wasn't related to Marcus, but he had been following EcoFlow's progress through mutual connections in the renewable energy industry. "We've been watching what you're doing at EcoFlow," David explained during their initial conversation. "Amazon has been looking for partners in the portable power space, particularly companies that are developing innovative solutions for emergency preparedness and sustainable energy. Your technology and market approach align very well with some strategic initiatives we're exploring." Marcus was intrigued but cautious. Amazon's interest could represent either a tremendous opportunity or a potential threat, depending on their intentions and approach. He agreed to a preliminary meeting, but insisted on conducting extensive due diligence before sharing any proprietary information
or committing to any specific discussions. The meeting took place at Amazon's offices in Seattle on a gray September morning. Marcus arrived with Elena Rodriguez and Dr. Patel, prepared for what could either be a partnership discussion or an acquisition conversation. They were escorted to a conference room.
They met with David Chen and 3 other Amazon executives representing business development, technology assessment, and strategic planning. "We're impressed with what EcoFlow has accomplished," David began after introductions were complete. "Your technology is genuinely innovative, your market traction is strong, and your team has executed excellently on a challenging growth trajectory. We think there might be opportunities for Amazon to help you scale more rapidly, while advancing our own strategic objectives in sustainable technology." The conversation that followed was unlike anything Marcus had experienced in his entrepreneurial journey. The Amazon executives demonstrated sophisticated understanding of EcoFlow's technology, market position, and competitive landscape. They asked detailed questions about manufacturing scalability, intellectual property protection, and international expansion possibilities. Most importantly, they seemed genuinely interested in preserving and enhancing what made EcoFlow successful, rather than simply absorbing the company into Amazon's existing operations. "What we're envisioning," explained Jennifer Walsh, Amazon's Director of Strategic Partnerships, "is a relationship that would give EcoFlow access to Amazon's distribution network, manufacturing capabilities, and global customer base, while maintaining your autonomy and innovative culture. We're not talking about acquisition at this point. We're talking about partnership that could accelerate your growth by several years." Marcus found himself cautiously optimistic about the possibilities. Amazon's resources could solve many of the scaling challenges that were limiting EcoFlow's growth potential. Their distribution network could put EcoFlow products in front of millions of customers worldwide. Their manufacturing partnerships could enable production volumes that would dramatically reduce costs while maintaining quality. The meeting concluded with agreements to continue discussions and conduct mutual due diligence processes. Amazon would evaluate EcoFlow's technology, financial performance, and growth potential in detail. EcoFlow would assess Amazon's strategic objectives, partnership terms, and cultural compatibility. Over the following weeks, Marcus found himself dividing his time between running his rapidly growing business and participating in an increasingly complex evaluation process with Amazon. Teams of engineers, financial analysts, and business strategists from both companies collaborated on detailed assessments of technology integration possibilities, market expansion opportunities, and operational synergies. The due diligence process revealed that Amazon's interest in EcoFlow went beyond simple product distribution. They were developing a comprehensive strategy around sustainable technology, emergency preparedness, and energy independence that aligned closely with trends in consumer behavior and government policy. EcoFlow's innovations represented key components of this broader strategic vision. Marcus was particularly impressed by Amazon's long-term perspective on the renewable energy market. Their analysis projected that portable power solutions would evolve from niche products to mainstream necessities over the next decade, driven by climate change, infrastructure vulnerabilities, and changing consumer preferences. Wasn't lost on him, but he was too focused on the complex decisions ahead to spend much time savoring the vindication. The acquisition negotiations required Marcus to make fundamental decisions about his priorities and objectives. Amazon was offering enough money to make him financially independent for life, but they were also offering something potentially more valuable: the resources and platform to scale EcoFlow's impact far beyond what he could achieve independently. Dr. Patel, Sarah Kim, and Elena Rodriguez each brought different perspectives to the decision-making process. Dr. Patel was excited about the research and development resources that Amazon could provide, including access to advanced laboratories and collaboration with world-class engineers. Sarah Kim saw opportunities to build EcoFlow into a global brand with environmental impact far beyond their current reach. Elena Rodriguez focused on the operational advantages of Amazon's supply chain expertise and international infrastructure. Marcus realized that his decision about the acquisition would be based not just on financial considerations, but on his vision for what EcoFlow could become. The company had grown beyond his original conception of a small business serving niche markets. It had the potential to influence how millions of people thought about energy, sustainability, and emergency preparedness. Throughout the negotiation process, Marcus maintained regular communication with his core team, but kept the discussions confidential from his family. He wasn't ready to deal with their reactions, particularly Victoria's, until he had made final decisions about EcoFlow's future. The breakthrough in negotiations came in early December when Amazon proposed a deal structure that addressed Marcus's key concerns about maintaining EcoFlow's innovative culture and environmental mission. Rather than simply absorbing EcoFlow into Amazon's existing operations, they would establish it as a semi-autonomous subsidiary with dedicated resources and clear performance objectives related to both financial success and environmental impact. Marcus would remain as CEO of EcoFlow under Amazon's ownership, with expanded authority and resources to pursue aggressive growth strategies. His core team would retain their leadership positions with enhanced compensation and career development opportunities. Most importantly, EcoFlow's commitment to environmental sustainability and technological innovation would be preserved and amplified through Amazon's platform. The final valuation exceeded Marcus's most optimistic projections. Amazon's offer of $2.1 billion reflected not just EcoFlow's current performance, but their assessment of the company's potential under Amazon's ownership. The deal would make Marcus wealthy beyond anything his family had imagined possible, but more importantly, it would give him the platform to build something truly significant. As December progressed, Marcus found himself working with teams of lawyers, accountants, and investment bankers to finalize the acquisition agreement. The complexity of the transaction required extensive documentation, regulatory approvals, and coordination between multiple parties. Every detail had to be carefully negotiated to ensure that the deal would achieve both Amazon's strategic objectives and Marcus's vision for EcoFlow's future. The final signatures were scheduled for early January, with public announcement planned for the following week. Marcus had spent months preparing for this moment, but he still felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as the completion date approached. The business that had started in his garage was about to become part of one of the world's most powerful companies. As he reviewed the final agreements in his workshop on New Year's Eve, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. 12 months earlier, Victoria had stood in their parents' living room and declared his business fake in front of 30 witnesses. Tomorrow, he would be signing a $3.0 billion deal with Amazon.
Wake up as the CEO of a subsidiary of Amazon, with resources and opportunities that would have been unimaginable when he was assembling his first prototype. The transformation hadn't just been about business success. Marcus had evolved from a talented engineer with good ideas into a leader capable of building and scaling a significant enterprise. He had learned to recruit exceptional talent, develop comprehensive strategies, and execute complex initiatives under pressure. Most importantly, he had discovered that his original vision for EcoFlow had been far too small. The workshop around him contained prototypes and plans for innovations that would reshape multiple industries over the next decade. Amazon's resources would accelerate their development and deployment in ways that could benefit millions of people while advancing the broader transition to sustainable energy. Victoria's dismissive words had unknowingly catalyzed a transformation that would exceed her most ambitious projections. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message from Elena Rodriguez. Final document signed. "Congratulations, boss. Ready to change the world?" He smiled as he typed his response. "Let's do this!" The fake business was about to become very real indeed. The morning of January 15th arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that Portland rarely experienced in winter. Marcus stood in his penthouse apartment overlooking the Willamette River, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and amber. In 3 hours, Amazon would officially announce their acquisition of EcoFlow Technologies, and the business that Victoria had declared fake would be revealed as one of the most significant renewable energy deals in corporate history.
His phone had been buzzing constantly since 5 a.m. with calls from reporters, industry analysts, and former colleagues who had somehow learned about the announcement ahead of its official release. Marcus had turned off the notifications, preferring to experience these final moments of anticipation in peaceful silence. After today, his life would change irrevocably, and he wanted to savor the transition. The apartment around him reflected the transformation his life had undergone over the past year. Gone were the modest furnishings and DIY solutions that had characterized his previous living space. The open concept design featured floor-to-ceiling windows, custom lighting that he had designed himself using EcoFlow technology, and artwork from local artists whose environmental themes resonated with his values. It was the home of someone who had achieved financial success while maintaining his commitment to sustainability and innovation. Marcus had purchased the apartment 6 months earlier, after the acquisition negotiations had progressed far enough to guarantee their completion. He had wanted a space that reflected his new status, while providing the kind of environment where he could continue thinking creatively about EcoFlow's future under Amazon's ownership. The top floor offered privacy from the media attention that would inevitably follow the announcement, while the panoramic views of the city reminded him of how far he had traveled from his garage workshop beginnings. At 8 a.m., Marcus received a call from Jennifer Walsh, Amazon's Director of Strategic Partnerships, confirming that everything was proceeding according to plan. The press release would go live at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, followed by a joint press conference at Amazon's Seattle headquarters. Marcus would participate via video link from EcoFlow's Portland facility, surrounded by the team that had made the acquisition possible. "Are you ready for this?" Jennifer asked, her voice betraying excitement despite her professional demeanor. "I've been ready for this moment since last New Year's Eve," Marcus replied, thinking about Victoria's dismissive words and the determination they had sparked in him. The drive to EcoFlow's facility took Marcus through the industrial district where his journey had begun. He passed the small garage space where he had built
First prototypes, now occupied by an artisan coffee roaster whose success represented the kind of small business entrepreneurship that Portland celebrated. The irony wasn't lost on him that his own success had grown beyond the scale that most people associated with local enterprise. EcoFlow's current headquarters occupied an entire block in southeast Portland, with manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and office space that housed nearly 200 employees. The building itself had been designed according to Marcus's specifications, incorporating renewable energy systems, sustainable materials, and innovative architectural features that served as a living demonstration of the company's environmental values. Dr. Patel, Sarah Kim, and Elena Rodriguez were waiting in the main conference room when Marcus arrived, along with the core team members who had contributed to EcoFlow's transformation. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and nervous energy. Everyone understood that they were about to witness a moment that would validate years of hard work and ambitious planning. "Final check on everything," Elena announced, consulting her tablet. "Amazon's press team confirms release at 9 a.m. sharp. Legal has confirmed all documentation is complete. Our customer service team is prepared for the inevitable surge in inquiries. Manufacturing is ready to scale production according to the accelerated timeline we discussed," Sarah Kim added. "Media response has been incredible so far. We've got interview requests from TechCrunch, Fast Company, Forbes, and about 20 other publications. The environmental angle is getting particular attention. Everyone wants to understand how this fits into Amazon's broader sustainability strategy." Dr. Patel, typically focused on the technical implications, shared his perspective. "The research and development opportunities this creates are extraordinary. Amazon's engineering resources combined with our innovation culture could produce breakthroughs that would take us decades to achieve independently. I'm particularly excited about the possibilities for international expansion and integration with smart home technologies." Marcus felt a surge of pride as he listened to his team's professional analysis of their achievement. These weren't employees celebrating a lucky break or windfall. They were seasoned professionals who understood exactly what they had accomplished and what it would enable them to achieve in the future. At exactly 9 a.m., Marcus's phone exploded with notifications as the Amazon press release went live across business news networks, social media platforms, and industry publications. The headline read, "Amazon acquires EcoFlow Technologies for $2.1 billion, advancing renewable energy and emergency preparedness strategy." The press release provided detailed information about EcoFlow's technology, market position, and growth trajectory. It quoted Amazon executives praising Marcus's vision and leadership, describing EcoFlow as a perfect example of American innovation solving real-world problems through technological excellence and environmental responsibility.
The announcement positioned the acquisition as a strategic move that would accelerate Amazon's commitment to renewable energy while providing customers with cutting-edge solutions for energy independence and emergency preparedness. Within minutes, Marcus's phone was ringing with reporters seeking interviews and commentary, his email inbox filled with congratulations from customers, suppliers, and industry contacts. Social media mentions of EcoFlow and Marcus's name began trending as people shared the news and speculated about its implications. The most significant call came at 9:15 from his mother, Dr. Chen. Her voice was shaking with emotion as she spoke. "Marcus, I just saw the news. I can't believe it. $2 billion? How is this possible?" Marcus found himself smiling despite the surreal nature of the conversation. "It's possible because the business you and
Victoria thought was fake actually solved real problems for real people. The market was much bigger than any of us realized, and we executed well enough to capture a significant portion of it. But Marcus, we had no idea. If we had known... If you had known what, Mom? Would you have supported me differently? Would Victoria have been less dismissive? Would Dad have taken my work seriously?" Marcus's voice remained calm, but the underlying emotions were complex. "We were wrong," Helen admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "We were so wrong about everything. Your father is going to be devastated when he realizes what he missed, and Victoria... Marcus, Victoria doesn't know yet. She's in meetings all day, and her assistant hasn't been able to reach her." Marcus felt a strange mixture of anticipation and sympathy as he considered his sister's inevitable reaction. Victoria had built her identity around being the successful child, the one who understood business and finance, while Marcus played with his expensive hobbies. The acquisition announcement would force her to confront the possibility that her assessment of Marcus's potential had been catastrophically incorrect. "When she finds out, please tell her that I don't need an apology," Marcus said carefully. "But I do hope she understands that success comes in many different forms, and sometimes the things that look fake from the outside are more real than anything happening on Wall Street." The press conference began at 10 a.m., with Marcus participating via video link from EcoFlow's main conference room. He found himself fielding questions from reporters about his background, his vision for EcoFlow's future under Amazon's ownership, and his perspective on the renewable energy industry's evolution. "Mr. Chen," asked a reporter from Bloomberg, "your company grew from a garage startup to a $2 billion acquisition in just 6 years. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are facing skepticism about their ideas?" Marcus paused, thinking about the question's personal relevance. "I think the most important thing is to focus on solving real problems for real people rather than trying to impress critics or meet other people's expectations of what success should look like. If you're creating genuine value, the market will eventually recognize it, even if it takes longer than you initially hoped." Another reporter pressed further. "There are reports that your own family was skeptical about your business prospects. How did you maintain confidence in your vision despite that lack of support?" "Family dynamics can be complicated," Marcus replied diplomatically. "But ultimately, entrepreneurship requires you to believe in your ideas even when other people don't see their potential. The validation has to come from customers and market results, not from family approval or social recognition." The most challenging question came from a reporter who had clearly done extensive research on Marcus's background. "Mr. Chen, your sister Victoria is a successful investment banker at Goldman Sachs. Did her expertise in finance influence your business development strategy?" Marcus felt the weight of that question's implications. He could use this moment to settle scores publicly, to embarrass Victoria in front of the entire business community. Instead, he chose a response that reflected the person he had become rather than the hurt he had experienced. "My sister has always been successful in her chosen field, and I respect her accomplishments. EcoFlow's success came from focusing on technological innovation and customer satisfaction rather than traditional financial metrics. We approached business development differently, but both approaches can be valid depending on the industry and circumstances." The press conference concluded with Amazon executives outlining their integration plans and growth projections for EcoFlow under their ownership.
Marcus felt a sense of completion as the formal announcement process ended. The world now knew that his fake business had been real enough to attract one of the largest acquisitions in the field.
Offers in renewable energy history. The afternoon brought a steady stream of congratulatory messages and interview requests. But Marcus found himself most interested in the responses from people who had been part of his journey from the beginning. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the climate researcher who had been his first major customer, sent a heartfelt email expressing her excitement about EcoFlow's expanded resources for developing next-generation research equipment. Several of his early employees, who had taken significant career risks to join a small startup, shared their amazement at how their stock options had suddenly become life-changing financial assets. The machine shop owner, who had manufactured Marcus's first prototype components, called to express his gratitude for the partnership that had helped grow his own business. Most meaningfully, Marcus received messages from customers whose lives had been improved by EcoFlow products. Emergency responders described how portable power systems had enabled them to provide better service during natural disasters. Researchers shared stories about breakthrough discoveries that had been possible because of reliable power in remote locations. Families expressed appreciation for the peace of mind that came from knowing they could maintain power during outages. These messages reminded Marcus that the acquisition's significance went beyond financial metrics or family vindication. EcoFlow had created genuine value for thousands of people, and Amazon's resources would enable them to scale that impact exponentially. As evening approached, Marcus received the call he had been anticipating all day. Victoria's voice was carefully controlled, but he could hear the underlying tension. "Marcus, I just heard about the Amazon deal. Congratulations." "Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate that." There was a long pause before Victoria continued. "I owe you an apology. What I said at the New Year's party was wrong. I was wrong about your business, wrong about your potential, and wrong to humiliate you publicly." Marcus felt a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. The apology was sincere, but it came after damage that couldn't be completely undone. "I accept your apology, Victoria, but I need you to understand something. Your words that night didn't just hurt my feelings. They motivated me to prove that my vision was valid in ways that couldn't be dismissed or ignored. In some ways, you helped create the success you're congratulating me for." "I don't understand," Victoria replied. "Before that night, I was building a good business, but I was still seeking approval from family and trying to meet other people's expectations of what success should look like. Your dismissal freed me from that constraint. I stopped trying to build a business that would impress you and started building a business that would change the world." Another pause. "Marcus, I've spent the entire afternoon trying to understand how I could have been so wrong about something so obvious. My colleagues at Goldman Sachs are calling this one of the smartest acquisitions they've seen in years. The technology analysis, the market positioning, the execution strategy, everything you did was exactly right." "It wasn't obvious, Victoria. It was risky and uncertain and required believing in possibilities that most people couldn't see. That's what entrepreneurship actually looks like, as opposed to the case studies they teach in business school." Marcus could hear Victoria processing this perspective. Her world of investment banking was built on analyzing established companies and proven business models. Marcus had created something entirely new, which required different skills and different ways of thinking. "What happens now?" Victoria asked. "Now, I get to build something even bigger. Amazon's resources will let us expand globally, develop technologies that would have taken decades independently, and impact millions of people instead of thousands. The fake business you dismissed is about to become a major force in the global transition to renewable."
Energy. And between us? Between our family? Marcus considered the question carefully. The hurt from Victoria's public humiliation had motivated him to achieve extraordinary success, but holding on to resentment would limit his ability to enjoy that success. "I think we can rebuild our relationship, but it has to be based on mutual respect rather than the old dynamic where you and Dad assumed I was the less successful child who needed guidance. I've proven that I can build something significant. Now we can relate to each other as equals." Victoria's voice was thoughtful as she replied, "I'd like that, Marcus. I'd like that very much." The conversation ended with tentative plans to meet for dinner the following week, when the immediate media attention would have subsided, and they could have an honest conversation about their relationship's future. As Marcus prepared to leave the office that evening, Alina Rodriguez stopped by his desk with a bottle of champagne and a simple message. "Congratulations, boss. You proved them all wrong."
Marcus accepted the champagne but found himself thinking about the broader implications of the day's events. He had indeed proven his critics wrong, but more importantly, he had proven himself right. The vision that had seemed impossible when he was working alone in his garage had become reality through persistence, intelligent strategy, and the courage to pursue ambitious goals despite skepticism from people whose opinions had once mattered deeply to him. The drive home took Marcus through downtown Portland as the city's lights reflected off the Willamette River. He thought about all the entrepreneurs working in garages and coffee shops throughout the city, pursuing ideas that other people might dismiss as unrealistic or fake. Some would fail, but others would succeed beyond anyone's current imagination. The key was distinguishing between genuine innovation and wishful thinking, then having the courage to pursue the innovations relentlessly despite inevitable setbacks and criticism. Marcus's penthouse apartment felt different when he returned that evening. The same panoramic views and custom lighting surrounded him, but his relationship to the space had changed. This was no longer the home of someone proving himself. It was the home of someone who had succeeded beyond his original ambitions and was now focused on what to build next. He opened Elena's champagne and stood on his balcony overlooking the city, reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this moment. 12 months earlier, Victoria had called his business fake in front of 30 witnesses at their family's New Year party. Today, that fake business had been acquired by Amazon for over $2 billion, validating not just Marcus's work, but his fundamental approach to innovation and entrepreneurship. The vindication was deeply satisfying, but Marcus found himself most excited about the future possibilities that the acquisition had created. Amazon's resources would enable EcoFlow to develop technologies and serve markets that had been beyond their independent capabilities. The next chapter of his career would focus on global impact rather than personal validation. His phone buzzed with a text message from his father. "Marcus, I saw the news. I am proud of you and sorry for not understanding what you were building. Can we talk soon?" Marcus smiled as he typed his response. "Of course, Dad. I'd like that." The fake business had become undeniably real. But more importantly, Marcus had discovered that his potential extended far beyond what anyone in his family had imagined. The boy who had tinkered with renewable energy in his garage had become a leader capable of building technologies that would influence the global transition to sustainable energy. As he prepared for bed, Marcus reflected on the broader lessons of his journey. Success often came from pursuing ideas that other people dismissed or underestimated. The key was maintaining confidence in your vision while remaining adaptable enough to learn from feedback and changing circumstances.
Importantly, the greatest achievements often required proving not just that critics were wrong, but that their limitations of imagination had prevented them from seeing possibilities that were actually within reach. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities as EcoFlow began its integration with Amazon. Marcus would wake up as the CEO of a subsidiary of one of the world's most powerful companies, with resources and responsibilities that would have been unimaginable when he was assembling his first prototype. The fake business had become the foundation for something much larger than Victoria could have envisioned when she dismissed it so confidently. The morning news would carry follow-up stories about the acquisition, analyzing its strategic implications and interviewing industry experts about its significance. Marcus's phone would continue buzzing with interview requests and congratulatory messages. But the most important transformation had already occurred. The dreamer had become a proven innovator. The dismissed younger brother had become a successful entrepreneur. And the fake business had become a $2 billion validation of vision, persistence, and the courage to pursue ambitious goals despite skepticism from people whose approval had once seemed essential. Marcus fell asleep that night, knowing that he had not only proven Victoria wrong, but had exceeded his own expectations of what was possible. The best revenge hadn't been destroying his critics, but rising so high that their limitations became obvious to everyone, including themselves. Sometimes the quiet ones, the ones dismissed as unrealistic dreamers, turned out to be the ones who understood the future better than the experts who claimed to know what was possible. The weeks following the Amazon acquisition announcement transformed Chen's life in ways that extended far beyond the financial windfall.
media attention continued to intensify as business publications, technology blogs, and mainstream news outlets sought to understand the story behind one of the year's most significant renewable energy deals. Marcus found himself thrust into a spotlight that required him to develop entirely new skills around public speaking, media relations, and thought leadership. The first major interview came 3 days after the announcement, when Forbes requested an in-depth profile for their cover story on emerging entrepreneurs who are reshaping the energy sector. Marcus arrived at their Seattle offices wearing a custom suit that Sarah Kim had insisted he purchase for such occasions, but he maintained his preference for understated elegance over flashy displays of wealth. The Forbes interviewer, Jennifer Morrison, had clearly done extensive research on both Marcus's background and the broader renewable energy industry. Her questions probed beyond the surface details of the acquisition to explore the strategic thinking and personal motivations that had driven Marcus's success. Your story resonates with so many entrepreneurs who face skepticism from family and established industry players, Jennifer observed. But what sets you apart is how you channeled that skepticism into strategic advantage, rather than simply trying to prove people wrong. Can you walk me through how you developed that mindset? Marcus reflected on the question, thinking about the evolution of his thinking since Victoria's dismissive comments at the New Year's party. I think the turning point was realizing that seeking approval from skeptics was actually limiting my potential. When I stopped trying to build a business that would impress my family and started building a business that would solve real problems for customers, everything changed. The approval became irrelevant because the market validation was so much more meaningful. Jennifer pressed further. But surely there were moments when the skepticism affected your confidence. How did you maintain belief in your vision during the inevitable setbacks and challenges? The key was focusing on customer feedback rather than external opinions,
Marcus explained. Every time a researcher told me that our power system had enabled a breakthrough discovery, or an emergency responder described how our equipment had helped save lives during a disaster, I was reminded that the work had genuine value, regardless of what anyone else thought about its commercial potential. The conversation continued for 2 hours, covering everything from Marcus's technical innovations to his management philosophy, to his plans for EcoFlow's future under Amazon's ownership. Jennifer's final question surprised him with its personal nature. Your sister Victoria works in investment banking, an industry that's often seen as being at odds with the environmental values that drive your business. How has your success affected your relationship with her? Marcus chose his words carefully, aware that his response would be read by millions of people, including Victoria herself. Family relationships are complex, and success can sometimes create unexpected tensions. But I think Victoria and I are both learning that there are many different ways to create value in the world. Her expertise in finance is genuinely valuable, just as my work in renewable energy serves important purposes. The key is respecting each other's contributions, rather than seeing them as competitive. The Forbes article, published 2 weeks later, positioned Marcus as a representative of a new generation of entrepreneurs who were building successful businesses while addressing global challenges like climate change and energy security. The cover photo showed him standing in EcoFlow's manufacturing facility, surrounded by the power systems that had made his success possible. The headline read, "The Quiet Revolutionary: How Marcus Chen Built a $2 billion Clean Energy Empire While Everyone Else Wasn't Watching." The article's publication triggered another wave of media attention, including interview requests from major television networks. Marcus found himself appearing on CNBC, Bloomberg Television, and even CBS Sunday Morning, discussing everything from entrepreneurship and innovation to family dynamics and the future of renewable energy. Each interview reinforced Marcus's growing reputation as a thoughtful business leader who had succeeded by focusing on substance rather than self-promotion. His calm demeanor and technical expertise made him an effective spokesperson for the broader clean energy movement, while his personal story resonated with audiences who had experienced similar family dynamics or professional skepticism. The television appearances also brought unexpected opportunities. A literary agent contacted Marcus about writing a book on entrepreneurship and innovation. A speakers bureau offered to represent him for corporate events and conference presentations. Several universities invited him to deliver commencement addresses or participate in entrepreneurship programs. Most significantly, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy reached out to invite Marcus to participate in a renewable energy summit focused on accelerating the deployment of clean technology solutions. The invitation represented recognition that his work had implications beyond commercial success, contributing to national energy security and environmental objectives. Marcus accepted the White House invitation with a mixture of excitement and humility. The summit would bring together leading researchers, entrepreneurs, and policymakers to develop strategies for accelerating America's transition to renewable energy. His presence at such a high-level gathering represented validation that EcoFlow's innovations were viewed as strategically important by government leaders. The preparation for the White House summit required Marcus to think more broadly about EcoFlow's role in the larger energy ecosystem. Working with Dr. Patel and Amazon's policy team, he developed presentations that demonstrated how portable power solutions could contribute to grid resilience, emergency preparedness, and rural electrification initiatives. The summit itself took place in the Eisenhower
Executive Office Building adjacent to the White House, with participants including Nobel Prize-winning scientists, Fortune 500 CEOs, and senior government officials. Marcus found himself seated at a roundtable discussion on energy innovation alongside leaders whose work he had studied and admired for years. During his presentation, Marcus described EcoFlow's technology and market approach while emphasizing the broader implications for energy democratization and climate resilience. He explained how portable power solutions could serve as stepping stones toward broader adoption of renewable energy, helping consumers and businesses experience the benefits of clean technology in practical, tangible ways. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Dr. Elena Martinez, the president's science advisor, described EcoFlow's approach as exactly the kind of innovation we need to bridge the gap between renewable energy potential and real-world deployment. Several other participants approached Marcus after his presentation to discuss potential collaborations and partnerships. The most significant conversation came with David Kim, a senior official from the Department of Energy who was leading initiatives around rural electrification and energy access. David explained that the federal government was developing programs to expand electricity access in underserved communities, both domestically and internationally, and that EcoFlow's technology could play an important role in these efforts. We're looking for solutions that can provide reliable power in areas where traditional grid infrastructure isn't feasible or cost-effective, David explained. Your systems seem ideally suited for applications like rural health clinics, remote schools, and emergency response facilities. Would Amazon and EcoFlow be interested in exploring government partnerships? Marcus expressed enthusiastic interest while noting that such partnerships would need to align with Amazon's broader strategic objectives. The conversation concluded with agreements to continue discussions through appropriate channels, potentially leading to significant government contracts that would expand EcoFlow's impact while serving important public policy objectives. The White House summit marked a turning point in Marcus's understanding of his company's potential significance. What had started as a personal quest to prove skeptics wrong had evolved into participation in national policy discussions about energy security and climate change. The recognition was gratifying, but it also brought new responsibilities and expectations. Returning to Portland after the summit, Marcus found himself reflecting on how dramatically his life had changed over the past year. The modest apartment where he had started planning his response to Victoria's criticism seemed like a different world compared to his current penthouse and the global platform he now occupied. Success had brought opportunities he never could have imagined, but it had also required him to develop capabilities and perspectives that went far beyond his original technical expertise. The personal transformation was perhaps most evident in his relationship with his family. His parents had initially struggled to understand their son's sudden prominence, but they gradually began to appreciate both his achievements and the broader implications of his work. Dr. Helen Chen found herself fielding questions from colleagues about Marcus's success, while Professor James Chen discovered that his material science expertise was relevant to some of EcoFlow's advanced research projects. Victoria's adjustment was more complex.
The sister who had once dismissed Marcus's work as fake now found herself in the awkward position of explaining to her Goldman Sachs colleagues how she had failed to recognize one of the most successful clean energy investments of the decade. Her professional reputation remained strong, but the experience had forced her to reconsider her assumptions about business success and market opportunities.
Between Marcus and Victoria gradually improved through a series of carefully structured conversations that allowed them to address past conflicts while building new foundations for mutual respect. Victoria's business expertise proved valuable as Marcus navigated the complexities of operating within Amazon's corporate structure, while Marcus's success provided Victoria with insights into entrepreneurship and innovation that enhanced her own professional capabilities. Their first joint public appearance came 6 months after the acquisition announcement, when they were invited to participate in a panel discussion at Stanford Business School about family dynamics and entrepreneurship. The event was titled "When Family Members Followed Different Paths to Success," and it attracted significant attention from students, faculty, and media. Victoria used the opportunity to publicly acknowledge her earlier mistakes in assessing Marcus's potential. "I was so focused on traditional metrics of business success that I couldn't see the genuine innovation and market opportunity that Marcus was creating," she admitted to the audience. It was a humbling lesson about the limitations of conventional wisdom and the importance of staying open to new possibilities. Marcus responded with characteristic diplomacy. "Victoria's skepticism actually helped me in ways that support probably wouldn't have. It forced me to develop stronger arguments for my approach and to focus on proving value through results rather than just presentations. Sometimes the most valuable feedback comes from people who challenge your assumptions, even when that feedback is difficult to hear." The Stanford panel discussion was widely viewed as a masterclass in how family members could support each other's success despite following dramatically different career paths. Videos of their presentation went viral on business social media platforms, with viewers praising both siblings for their honesty about past conflicts and their maturity in working through them. The positive response to the Stanford event led to additional speaking opportunities for both Marcus and Victoria, sometimes separately and occasionally together. They developed a presentation called "Success Comes in Many Forms: Lessons from Finance and Entrepreneurship" that became popular at business schools and corporate leadership development programs. These speaking engagements provided Marcus with opportunities to refine his thinking about entrepreneurship, innovation, and the broader implications of his work. He found himself increasingly focused on the mentorship and inspiration aspects of his platform, using his story to encourage other entrepreneurs who are facing skepticism or struggling with resource constraints. One of the most meaningful speaking engagements came at Oregon State University, Marcus's alma mater, where he delivered the commencement address for the engineering school's graduating class. Standing at the podium where he had once sat as a student uncertain about his future, Marcus reflected on the unpredictable nature of career development and the importance of pursuing meaningful work despite external doubts. "When I graduated from this program, I had no idea that the technical skills I was learning would eventually lead to building a company that Amazon would acquire for over $2 billion, he told the graduates. But more importantly, I had no idea that the problem-solving mindset and persistence that engineering education develops would be the most valuable assets in my entrepreneurial journey." The speech emphasized themes that had become central to Marcus's public messaging: the importance of focusing on customer value rather than external validation, the need to maintain a long-term perspective despite short-term setbacks, and the power of technical expertise combined with business acumen to create meaningful innovation. The commencement address was recorded and shared widely online, becoming one of the most watched graduation speeches of the year. The response from viewers was overwhelmingly positive, with many people sharing personal stories about how Marcus's message had inspired them to pursue their own entrepreneurial ambitions despite family skepticism or resource limitations. The growing demand for Marcus's perspectives on entrepreneurship and innovation led to the book deal that his literary agent had initially proposed. Working with a professional ghostwriter, Marcus developed a manuscript titled "Building Beyond Belief: How to Create Real Value When Others See Only Fake Dreams." The book combined practical advice about entrepreneurship with personal reflections on family dynamics, resilience, and the importance of maintaining authentic values while pursuing ambitious goals. The writing process required Marcus to examine his experiences more deeply than he had during interviews or speaking engagements. He found himself revisiting difficult moments from his entrepreneurial journey with new perspective, understanding how challenges that had felt overwhelming at the time had actually contributed to his eventual success. The book's central thesis was that sustainable success came from focusing on creating genuine value for customers rather than seeking approval from critics or conforming to conventional expectations. Marcus argued that many promising entrepreneurs failed not because their ideas were flawed, but because they allowed skepticism from family, peers, or industry experts to undermine their confidence and strategic focus. The most dangerous response to criticism, Marcus wrote in one key passage, is not anger or defensiveness, but the subtle shift toward trying to build something that will impress your critics, rather than something that will serve your customers. When you start optimizing for approval rather than value creation, you've already lost the entrepreneurial game. The book was published 18 months after the Amazon acquisition, receiving positive reviews from business publications and achieving bestseller status within its first month of release. The success of the book further established Marcus as a thought leader in the entrepreneurship space while providing additional platform for sharing the lessons he had learned during his journey from garage inventor to billion-dollar entrepreneur. Book tour events brought Marcus to cities across the country where he met thousands of aspiring entrepreneurs who were inspired by his story. Many of them shared their own experiences with family skepticism, resource constraints, and the challenge of maintaining confidence in their visions despite external doubts. These conversations reinforced Marcus's belief that his story resonated, not because it was unique, but because it represented challenges that most entrepreneurs faced in some form. The most emotionally significant book tour event took place in Portland, where Marcus appeared at Powell's Books for a hometown celebration of his success. The event sold out within hours of being announced, with an audience that included family members, early customers, former employees, and local entrepreneurs who had followed his journey from the beginning. Victoria introduced Marcus at the Powell's event, using the opportunity to publicly reflect on their relationship's evolution and the lessons she had learned from witnessing his success. "My brother taught me that intelligence and determination can come in many different forms," she told the audience. "I was so convinced that I understood what business success looked like that I couldn't see the genuine innovation happening right in front of me." Marcus's achievement isn't just a personal victory. It's a reminder that we all need to stay humble about our ability to predict what's possible. Marcus's presentation at Powell's focused on the importance of building supportive communities for entrepreneurs, particularly those who are pursuing unconventional paths or facing skepticism from family members. He announced the establishment of the EcoFlow Innovation Fund, a foundation that would provide grants and mentorship to early-stage entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs working on environmental solutions. Success creates responsibilities, Marcus explained to the audience. I was fortunate to have the technical background and market timing that made EcoFlow's success possible, but there are thousands of other entrepreneurs with equally promising ideas who need support and encouragement during the difficult early stages of building their companies. The EcoFlow Innovation Fund is designed to provide that support while fostering the kind of innovation that can address our most pressing environmental challenges. The Innovation Fund represented Marcus's commitment to using his success as a platform for broader impact rather than simply personal enrichment. Working with Amazon's corporate social responsibility team, he developed a comprehensive program that would provide financial support, technical mentorship, and business development assistance to entrepreneurs working on renewable energy, sustainable manufacturing, and environmental remediation solutions. The fund's launch attracted significant attention from the impact investing community and environmental organizations. Within 6 months, Marcus and his team had reviewed over 300 applications and approved initial grants for 15 promising startups. The recipients included a team developing advanced battery recycling technology, researchers creating more efficient solar panel manufacturing processes,
and entrepreneurs building solutions for rural water purification using renewable energy. Each grant recipient received not only financial support, but also access to EcoFlow's technical expertise and Amazon's business development resources. The program was designed to accelerate the commercialization of environmental technologies while fostering the kind of collaborative innovation ecosystem that Marcus believed was essential for addressing climate change and energy security challenges. The Innovation Fund's success led to speaking opportunities at major environmental conferences and impact investing summits. Marcus found himself increasingly recognized not just as a successful entrepreneur, but as a leader in the broader movement towards sustainable business practices and environmental innovation. The transformation was perhaps most evident during his appearance at the annual Climate Tech Summit in San Francisco, where he delivered a keynote address to an audience of investors, researchers, and policymakers focused on scaling climate solutions. His speech, titled From Garage to Global Impact, Building the Next Generation of Environmental Entrepreneurs, emphasized the importance of supporting unconventional thinkers and providing resources for early-stage innovation. The solutions we need for climate change and energy security won't come from traditional approaches or established players alone, Marcus told the audience. They'll come from entrepreneurs who are willing to pursue ideas that seem impossible, who persist through skepticism and resource constraints, and who focus on creating real value rather than impressing critics. Our job as a community is to identify and support these entrepreneurs before their potential becomes obvious to everyone else. The speech received a standing ovation and was subsequently shared widely across environmental and business networks. Several major foundations and impact investors approached Marcus after the event to discuss potential partnerships and collaborative initiatives. The growing recognition of Marcus's leadership in environmental entrepreneurship culminated in his selection as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the category of innovators. The profile, written by Dr. Elena Martinez from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, described Marcus as a visionary entrepreneur who has demonstrated that environmental responsibility and commercial success are not just compatible, but mutually reinforcing. The Time magazine recognition brought Marcus's story to an even broader audience, international media outlets, and global business leaders. He received invitations to speak at conferences in Europe, Asia, and Latin America, where his message about persistence, innovation, and environmental entrepreneurship resonated with audiences facing their own challenges around sustainable development and clean energy deployment. Perhaps the most personally meaningful recognition came from his hometown of Portland, which named Marcus as the recipient of their annual Outstanding Citizen Award for his contributions to local economic development and environmental leadership. This ceremony took place at City Hall, with Mayor Sarah Thompson presenting the award in front of an audience that included Marcus's family, EcoFlow employees, and community leaders who had supported his journey. Marcus Chen represents the best of Portland's entrepreneurial spirit, Mayor Thompson declared during the presentation. He built a world-class company right here in our city, created hundreds of good-paying jobs, and demonstrated that local innovation can have global impact. But more importantly, he's used his success as a platform for supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs and advancing solutions to our most pressing environmental challenges. The award ceremony provided an opportunity for Marcus to reflect publicly on his journey from the skeptical reception at his family's New Year's party to recognition as one of Portland's most successful entrepreneurs. He used his acceptance speech to emphasize the importance of community support for innovation and the role that local ecosystems play in fostering entrepreneurial success. No entrepreneur succeeds alone, Marcus told the audience. EcoFlow's achievements were possible because of the talented people who joined our team, the customers who believed in our products, the suppliers who supported our growth, and the community that provided the foundation for our success. This award belongs to all of them as much as it belongs to me. The ceremony concluded with the announcement that Marcus would be funding a new entrepreneurship center at Portland State University, designed to support student and community entrepreneurs working on sustainable technology solutions. The center would provide workspace, mentorship, and funding for early-stage ventures while fostering collaboration between university researchers and local business leaders. As Marcus stood on the steps of City Hall after the ceremony, surrounded by family, friends, and colleagues who had supported his journey, he reflected on the extraordinary transformation his life had undergone since Victoria's dismissive comments at their family's New Year's party. The business she had called fake had become the foundation for global recognition, meaningful impact, and opportunities to influence the next generation of entrepreneurs. But perhaps the most significant change was in Marcus's own understanding of success and its responsibilities. What had started as a quest to prove skeptics wrong had evolved into a commitment to using his achievements as a platform for broader positive impact. The vindication he had sought had been achieved, but it had also taught him that the most satisfying victories were those that created value for others rather than simply validating personal worth. The journey from garage inventor to globally recognized entrepreneur had required technical innovation, business acumen, and personal resilience. But it had also required the wisdom to understand that true success meant building something larger than himself, something that would continue creating value long after his personal vindication had been achieved. In proving that his fake business was real, Marcus had discovered that the most real achievements were those that opened doors for others to pursue their own seemingly impossible dreams. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.